and we'll see you all, and you'll hear from us next week.
Good morning. Welcome to Wairarapa Women's Inspiring Women, hosted by, of course, the Wairarapa Women's Centre. We're proud to empower women to empower their families and community. So, as usual, everybody voted, and wow, what an outstanding vote. It was for number one outfit, so I've got this on this morning. It was interesting to hear some of the comments. It's great to have your feedback into voting for what outfit we're having. So on Friday night, we actually joined Mel and the team at Dress for Success for their new opening and their new premises. It was great. They're now at 21 Workshop Road, and it's just a great opportunity for them to set up a really nice shop, more nice area, and they've got dressing rooms, they've got a lot more room for their display of their clothes, shoes, handbags, and menswear, which is fantastic. They're going into menswear. So it was really good to be able to see the new room and see the people there actually being involved and actually doing it. Millie, one of our committee members, actually had her artwork there, which was really fantastic. So it was a really good night. But I'm very lucky today to actually be interviewing the Deputy Mayor of Carterton. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Kim.
So Rebecca Vergance has actually been an upcoming young woman in the Carterton area for some time. I did some looking, and you've been busy with the youth right from the start with the R2R. So it's actually really good to actually talk to you because you are inspiring in your community. You work hard, and it's great to see some young blood putting their voice in the community.
Thank you.
So Rebecca, did you grow up in Carterton?
Yeah, I did. So I moved there when I was 7. My dad was a dairy farmer, so we moved around different farms in the Wairarapa and near Pahitua actually as well until I was 7. And then when I was 7, my dad decided he wanted to become a primary school teacher. So we moved to Carterton and been there since, really, with a few breaks in between. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you've got a young family there as well, so it's really good. But where did you go to for college?
So I went to Ponatahi Christian School in Carterton. So it's year 1 to 13, about 120 students I think they've got at the moment. So yeah, relatively small, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
That's good. You gave you good grounding for where you are now.
Yes, yeah. I think having like the smaller class sizes and was really good for me because I could kind of pick and choose what I wanted to do, and I actually ended up leaving school early, and I don't think I would have had that opportunity if I had went to, I guess, a bigger school. So yeah.
Great, that's awesome. So, when you left school, what was your vision for a career?
I was going to become a high school teacher, a college teacher. That was the goal. I intended to teach history and English. Yeah.
What changed?
Yes. So I went to uni. I studied history, and I ended up studying international relations, mainly because of that history perspective and just how countries relate to each other and that sort of thing. Something I really enjoyed. Then I finished my Bachelor of Arts, went overseas for a little bit actually. Came back here, and my program for teaching didn't start till January, so I thought, I'll get a job. Until then, couldn't find a job. Just couldn't get a job, and so I thought, I'm going to do some volunteering because I don't want to sit around doing nothing. And young people have always been a passion for me, and like getting young people to be really successful and feeling confident in themselves. So I started volunteering, and through that I came in contact with R2R, Rangatahi Tū Rangatira, and they were just starting up, and they were getting together a governance group, and I was one of the young people on there, and they were talking about jobs coming up, and I kind of said, well, would you consider me applying for this job, because this is like my dream job. And they were like, yeah, sure. So after that, I was like, you know what, I get to do exactly what I want to do, which was inspiring young people and helping them succeed. I could do that through that without having to do an extra year of study. And so through that, I became a lot more involved in the community sector, and I'm so glad I did. So glad, yeah.
So tell me, what sort of things does R2R? Let's give R2R a good plug because it's a really good program. It's a program that's really set up for the youth of Carlton. It's unique. Carlton in itself is very unique to the rest of the townships of the Wairarapa, and see it in multiple times when we go to the Wairarapa Community Networks meetings. Carlton's got something really a bit special, hasn't it?
I think it does, but I always feel like I'm biased, so it's nice hearing it from someone else as well. I know we do have a really high amount of community groups, per resident compared to other towns in the Wairarapa. So Carterton citizens, I guess, are very engaged in their community, so that's something we're known for.
That's great. So, and of course, getting the youth engaged right from young is actually really fantastic because once they connect and get into an organisation, they just grow. So tell me, have you got a favourite story you just want to tell about R2R that you have got out of R2R on working with the youth?
Yeah, so I guess some of my favourite things that we have done are our wānanga. So I'm not as involved with R2R as I used to be. I'm just a member on the governance team now. But originally I was one of the youth facilitators, and we meet every Wednesday night. They still meet every Wednesday night from 5:30 till 7:30. And we do sports, food, planning what's coming up. We've done so much over the years, and the thing I really like about it is it's a long-term program. It's not like you go there for a couple of days in the school holidays and you don't see them again till the next school holidays. It's every week, and so we've had the older sibling come along, and now it's the younger sibling coming. And I know when I was still there every Wednesday night, we'd have kids like 8 years old begging us to be part of it, and we kind of said, no, you're going to have to wait till you're 10 years old. So originally we focused a lot on, I guess, the older teens, and then it's kind of come down towards the 10 to 15 is the sweet spot now, I think. And we do still have a lot of the older ones coming along, but we kind of bring them in as mentors, and the two are kind of looking after the younger ones. So it's been really good. I guess some of my favourite memories, we went to Napier one time to go on a traditional waka, Te Mātou Maui, and it was incredible. So it was like one of my favourite trips away that we did. We went out onto the sea near Napier. It just really opened my mind. And I guess that was one of the things before being part of R2R, was I didn't really have a good tikanga Māori perspective, or, I'd never been on a marae before. So that really, the whole process of doing that with R2R really opened up my mind, and it's given me a really good grounding for being a councillor now and having that role as on a district council. So that's something I've been really, really thankful for.
That's really good, because that's interesting on where you've got your grounding as a councillor, because a lot of people talk about they're always focused on going to council or to central government, and to hear that you have done that. But isn't it good to also know that the work you did on the grounding of starting up that governance is now working how many years later?
Yeah, almost 6, 7, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually showing that good grounding governance actually helps something continuing on.
I think, to be honest, it's just passion, and the people involved are passionate about what they do, and the young people keep coming back every week, and they're the ones that are begging for more. So they're our accountability. The thing I love about it is that I can go to the park in Carterton now, walk down the main street, and I don't know every single young person, but I probably know like 80% of them, which is just really cool.
It is good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So tell me, you also got a youth award for your time at R2R as well. We know I did a research on you. You popped with John Booth getting your youth award.
Yeah, so that was for, I can't remember the exact title of the award now, but it's like inspiring young person or something like that, for the Charles Rickin Carter Awards in Carterton. So I think I got that, it must have been just after I got on council, because I was already on council and I just had Gracie as well. So yeah, that was probably my first outing with Gracie as a newborn, actually.
I remember you when you first started out in the R2R. We had a youth forum going at that stage. We'd all meet down at Carterton. And everybody was talking about this Rebecca, and I finally got to meet you, and I could see why they were all just like, this girl's inspirational. She's going to go somewhere. And a lot of people picked that you were going to do something big in the community right back then because of your way you approached the youth, the way you talked, the way you actually even just approached everybody. You were really quite inspirational back then. You probably weren't aware of it because you were just doing your work at that stage. But I can remember everybody talking about Rebecca Vergance. Watch out for Rebecca Vergance. So it's actually quite interesting that something that you've started off with as a passion has actually given you such grounding.
Yeah, definitely. I feel very blessed to have come through the paths that I have, and I definitely haven't done it alone. I've had very, very good people alongside me, especially with R2R. People like Deborah Davidson, Tito Tito, Anaru Te and Dallas, and a lot of other people along the way who, like, I have not done this by myself by any means. Yeah,
and that's good because mentoring, I feel, is one of the most important things you can do in a community. So I was a student mentor at the YMCA when I knew you, so we were always looking out for people that actually were doing something in the youth so that we could actually say to the youth, well, look at this one and look at the way they're doing things. So it's really interesting. I've followed your career for a long time. You probably haven't really known that, but I haven't officially stalked you, but I have always taken notice of what you've been doing. So tell me, what made you go into council?
So for me, it was working in the young, youth space and community space, and so for R2R, we were half managed by the council and half by the marae, and also Safer Community Trust. So I got to know a lot of the councillors and I guess just the systems and how it worked and that sort of thing. And around that time, it was my first time voting as well for the local body elections. And I remember looking through the booklet and thinking, there's no one here that represents me at my stage of life. So, just finished uni, I don't know if Gramalia was born by then, but, a young family, and I just felt like there was no one there with that perspective. So that was the main reason why I decided to run, yeah.
So tell me, where did you actually come in the voting on that first election? Can you remember? I'm just going to really throw you in the deep end.
Yeah, I do remember, actually. So I was, I think, either number 7 or 8 out of 8.
Yeah. But it just goes to show that you've worked really hard in that first 3 years. You've worked amazingly hard. And you've also been a mum of 2 beautiful young children who are so active and energetic. How do you fit that in with your council?
Well, actually, council's quite good because you don't have a boss besides people who vote for you. So you get to choose your own hours and it's relatively flexible. I mean, every Wednesday we're at council, so that's a fixed time. But outside of that, you can kind of pick and choose what you can go to. And I would bring along my kids quite a bit to things. So yeah, and that way it's actually quite nice. There's also a lot of work you can do from home. So all your readings, everything you do from home. So, I mean, now that my kids are at preschool, 3 days a week, it's even easier. But when they were really little, I could actually just do a lot from home. So
that's great. So, somebody else that's looking at it and thinking, oh, wow, what's involved in a council? What is involved being a councillor?
So it's a lot of things, and I think that's why I like the job so much, is because it's actually a lot of variety, and I get to do all the things that I like, so that's good. So I guess a typical week as a councillor, so I'll do a typical week as a councillor. It's a bit different now that I'm Deputy Mayor. So Wednesdays are our set council day, and generally in the morning we have what we call workshops, and they're not open to the public. They are, I guess, brainstorming sessions, information sessions, helping us get up to speed on different things like, say, like law changes or regulations and stuff that we need to look out for. We've got the long-term plan coming up, so we've done a bit of brainstorming around that, what we want it to look like. So that'll be the workshops. Then generally in the afternoon we have our public meetings, so like committees or a full council meeting. Yeah, so there's just so much. As a council, we obviously do all the infrastructure, so all your wastewater, when you flush the toilet, when you turn on the tap, the water comes out, that's us. Footpaths, roads, parks, community funding, what else?
Rubbish,
recycling, a lot of the reserves around town. There's just so much. And also, like, if you're going to build a house, you get a building consent. You go to your council for building consent. So all these things. And on top of that, there's a lot of councils do events or community development or economic development. So there's a huge amount of stuff that goes on. And it just varies week to week what you're talking about, depending on what's coming up.
That's great. You're making it sound so interesting. It's so actually, how can you put it? It's not just sitting there in meetings. You're making it sound like you're actually learning as you're going along, which is actually really important, isn't it?
Definitely. I feel like the last 3 years being on council, I've learned as much as, or more, than doing 3 years of university. It's been a lot.
So you've been learning on the foot.
Yes, yeah.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people don't realise the amount of legislation that comes down from central government to local government. You guys actually don't have a decision. You've just got to follow a lot of that.
Yep.
And people think you've made the decision, but it's actually central government.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that's been one of the council bugbears over the years, is that the government will make a decision like that and, expect council to enforce it without actually giving us any resourcing or funding to do it. So, like, a good example is, fencing around swimming pools. We now have to go and do the checkups for that, but who's going to do that? It's a staff member that we're paying for. We have to pay for their time.
Yeah. So a lot of things, the central government put into place, and then it's like you guys actually have to police it realistically and follow through with it, and it's additional staff and additional resources that's put on to those rates, isn't it?
Yep, definitely. And a lot of it's staff time, and that directly impacts on your rates because you don't loan fund staff or costs like that. So that is, a big part of it.
Excellent. So tell me, you're also Go-Kart and Business Group Coordinator. What's involved in that?
Yes. So it's just a few hours a week. I started that probably two years ago now, almost 2 years ago, and basically I just monitor the emails that come in. I update business listings on the website, send out newsletters, just a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff.
So post-COVID, this group has actually got together and is doing a new initiative. Do you want to speak about that?
Ooh, what one is that?
So there was a bit in the Times Age about all of the business owners getting together and actually talking about how they're going to cope after COVID. Okay, maybe I've got that wrong.
I'm not sure.
There was a photo of you guys in the paper.
Oh, okay, yes. No, that was the midweek. They were doing a series on how businesses were bouncing back after COVID. Yeah, and so we did have a photo. It was a number of our the Go-Karting members on the front page, and it was just an article around what people were doing and how they're going post-COVID. It's been a really mixed bag, I think. Some people are doing extremely well. Others have actually modified their business to their terms because they enjoyed the slower lifestyle during lockdown. And then there's others who have actually really been impacted by the changes out there, and now are looking at ways that they can reimagine the way they're doing things.
So within your Go-Karting, is that like a mentoring where you support each other through that situation?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the main thing about Go-Karting is it's a business association, and there's an executive team who are voted in by the members, and they just make decisions on things that they want to do in town. We have our core services, which are like the Karting NZ website, information that goes out, drop-ins, training, our monthly business socials, that sort of thing. So it's mainly a networking organisation. But if you do have an issue, we'll try our best to help you solve it.
Sometimes an issue is talked about as sometimes actually people feed into it, can actually be an issue dealt with. Something that feels so big to somebody else, actually with some other advice, can actually help alleviate a lot of the anxiety that's going on with post-COVID. There's a lot of anxiety and a bit of concern about, especially when you're a business owner, that's your income.
Yeah.
And you do get very protective. And I can understand where a lot of businesses are at, especially when you turn on the TV and everything's about on how bad COVID is, and you see other businesses doing well. But I think what I've actually really enjoyed seeing is a lot of how the businesses have changed to cope with the new life. How even some of the businesses, like during lockdown, I bought my flour and my yeast from Clearville Bakery. So a lot of people went online and did that sort of thing. And I think that was actually really good. For Easter, our treat, because we didn't get our Easter eggs beforehand, was actually chocolate croissant from the bakery. So, just things like that. You remember those sorts of things during that time on how businesses change to suit the needs.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's been a really big push towards supporting local businesses now, and that's one thing that as a business association we're constantly pushing. It's like, buying birthday gifts. You could just go online and buy it from who knows where, or you could actually make it, an effort to go uptown, find a local business to support. So I that's one thing I've been really conscious of in probably the last year and a half, is actually supporting local. And if I can buy it local, then buy it local. And actually, 9 times out of 10 you're probably getting a pretty similar price anyway, with probably better service. So,
and a lot of the time you're not paying that huge cost of courier or even postage. So, and I think nothing better than actually going and choosing a gift. I come down quite often to Carlton, and I'm sad that PowerShell factory's closed, because that used to be one of my places. But you still got your florist and your bookshop down there. Page 42. Got some really interesting books. I've got books from there that have actually helped me with my tutoring. So, sometimes actually popping down to Carlton is actually quite neat just to go through their shops.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like the art galleries are there as well, and you're always going to find a very unique gift as well, which is quite cool. So, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, we're just going to take a break. We're going to put Mike's music on. We're not going to say who it is because he's chosen the music, because I left it behind this morning. So here we go. We're on to the music.
I'm out of things to try, to learn the reason why I feel I've been buried alive, and I don't know how I made it till now. If I wait any longer, I'll die. If I felt the love from somewhere up above, I know I could break this spell. To go on this way isn't worth all the pain. I feel like I'm living in if I can stay strong from sunset to dawn, tomorrow might be alright. And if the daybreak comes, I'll stare at the sun until I can see the light. And if the daybreak comes, I'll stare at the sun until I can see the light.
Welcome back. We're going to have a spring breakfast on the 25th of September at 7 a.m, nice early start. We're going to have our last guest from our last radio show, Sophie Hanson, who is from the Wairarapa Feed Run, who has done amazing work at getting feed through to the Hawke's Bay. Even last night on Country Calendar, they were covered on, not Country Calendar, it was actually 2020, sorry, covered on how they took food through to Hawke's Bay and how they covered a bit about how families were feeling. And we all know ourselves what a drought can be like. And so it'd be really good to Sophie. Sophie's actually an amazing person to talk to. I really enjoyed talking to her last time. So that's a breakfast on the 25th. We're going to wait until the elections are over and we'll know who's in government, and that's going to be a new discussion. So the 25th is the Friday after the elections. So that's 7 a.m. Tickets will be coming out very soon. Welcome back, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Rebecca, what was your first campaign like?
It was really just me giving it a go. I didn't really know whether or not, what the outcome would be, if I'd get on council or not. But it was something I actually really believed in, and was like, I'm just going to give this a shot and see what happens. So I'm just trying to think. My first campaign, I didn't really spend any money. I had a Facebook page. I went to all the Meet the Candidate events.
And that must have been pretty scary being a young person and stepping up in those candidates events too. How did it feel?
I was definitely nervous, but for me, I really knew what I wanted to achieve, and really it was just saying, look, if you vote me in, these are the sort of things that I'm interested in and I'll be working on, and where I think we need improvement, and kind of just left it at that. Yeah.
Great, because those Meet the Candidates can be quite daunting with people coming and asking questions when you first time in. So there must have been a lot of research having to be done beforehand.
Yeah, well, I'd worked with the community, like we've talked about, probably for at least 2 years at that point. And of course, growing up in Carterton as well, I felt like I knew the community really well. And I felt like I knew where some of the gaps were and things that I'd want to achieve. So that was good. I think mainly when you run for council, people just want to know what sort of person you are and what you stand for and the sorts of things that you're interested in, which for me was quite an easy thing to do. I think the last election, it's almost harder doing it second time round, because you kind of know what's achievable and what's not achievable, and so you're like, oh, should I say this, because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to achieve it, whereas first time round you're like, no, this is what I want to do, and so I constantly remind myself of that as well, like this is what I'm here for, and I'm here to get stuff done. So
Great. So tell me, what did you achieve personally in the first 3 years of being on the council?
So a lot of learning involved. I think one thing that I like to think I had a key role in was increasing the council's engagement and just being a lot more accessible in the community. There were a number of things that were already on the go when I got into council, like the website revamp and getting a Facebook page and that sort of thing. So one of my main goals was just to make council really accessible. And so I think from that, like our two consultations that happened when I was on council were very hands-on, being out in the community and talking with people and that sort of thing. I think that's really where council makes an impact.
Great. So what would you say to a younger person? You're a good mentor, and what would you say to a younger person that was thinking about standing for council?
I would say just give it a go. Know what you want to achieve. So why are you getting on council? What if you had a magic wand, what would be the things that you would change in your town? And besides that, you just got to be passionate about it. You need to want to be there, because it's not always easy. So there is a lot of reading involved, so you kind of need to be able to do that. But basically, you just need to be passionate about it and passionate about your community.
Fantastic. So, when you think about what you have achieved in that time, tell me, what is something that has really stood out in your time, in your first 3 years? What really stood out for you in that time?
So the engagement and consultation side, I think we've really improved on that. Another area is we signed a memorandum of understanding with the marae, Hurunui-Orangi marae. So I feel like that relationship is only going from strength to strength. We had marae members sitting around the council table and on committees. We've still got a long way to go with that, but I felt like we've made some really good relationships, and that's definitely the basis. Another area is Carrington Park. So I'm really passionate about public spaces and parks and reserves and that sort of thing. And I was part of a team that led a bit of redevelopment at Carrington Park. So not that you'd really notice it right now because we've been held up by COVID a bit, but everything's ready to go. So we've done all the backroom stuff. There's a whole lot of new seating going in, new planting, a couple of paths, and so the goal is to make this space like a really awesome place that you'd want to have a night market and sit down for your lunch and that sort of thing. So we're also working towards getting an artwork done for the front of the park. So I'm currently working with the marae, Nanny Francis and Pale, who's the Tuia candidate actually for the Carterton district at the moment. So we're working through some designs which is going to bring some Māori history into the middle of our town, because I feel like that's something that's really lacking at the moment.
Yeah, to see the history of your town, you've got to go into the event centre and actually walk down the hallway down to the youth area.
Yeah.
I was in there on Friday and spending some time looking through and seeing all the areas that you have. Like you have your 4 main areas and then all your different areas like Flat Point and your maraes and all that. Just actually to see where Carterton is, it was actually really, I found it quite amazing to see. It'd be nice to see it out somewhere where it's more accessible to everybody, because it is really good. And the other week I was walking through, actually when we went to come and have a cuppa with you, there was photos through the town of different old parts of Carterton and how they've changed over the time. You know, people are interested in history, and it's good to actually bring that back in as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at the end of last term, Greg helped set up the Arts, Culture and Heritage Advisory Group. So that's a relatively new advisory group, and that's one of their projects is bringing that history more into town and that sort of thing. But yeah, so having more Māori history in our town is something I'm quite passionate about, and I've banged on about street names for quite a long time now, so that's on the next agenda for policy and strategy, because I feel like we need to have that, you know, local Māori perspective in our towns, because actually before the town got there was Māori tangata whenua there, you know. So yeah, and we not that we forget about that, but I don't feel like it's represented enough.
Great, that's actually a really good thing to have. Because you are passionate about history as well, so it's nice that you're bringing your own passion into it. So tell me, when you stood the second time, what was different from this second campaign to the first campaign?
I think the knowledge of the past 3 years is just invaluable. Just knowing how everything works, and I think that's the best part about it, is now that I'm in council second time running, you've got all this knowledge behind you, you just start running, you know. And I think for me, I know we're almost a year into our term, which means just about years left, and I have my list of things that I want to get done by the end of that. So I'm quite impatient, so I have to pace myself. being in local government and having impatience, yes, I could imagine that, because local government doesn't move fast. No, and there is good reasons for that, I think, because you don't want people to be able to change things overnight necessarily without having that community consultation and that. But yeah, it is. You do need to be patient.
Okay, so tell me a bit about what do you do with your kids down in Carterton? You know, what things do you do with your family? What's there to offer?
Yeah, I love Carterton because it's such a great place to bring up a family. Some of our favourite things to do are obviously go out for coffee, probably a bit too much.
Page 42 knows her order straight off, I tell you.
Yeah, so going out, like getting a coffee and going to a park or whatever. The new kids road safety park is just amazing. The Lions have done such a good job of that, and our kids absolutely love it. So the park's a good one. We live quite close to the park, so we go there fairly often. Another thing, like the gorge and Mount Holsworth are just beautiful, and like especially during summer we go there quite a bit because of the river, and actually under the trees is nice and cool. So yeah, I guess that's some of our favourite things to do in Carterton. Just trying to think what else.
Because being a young family, sometimes, there's not always the money there to go to a lot of tourist things, but what I like is there's a lot of tourist things that are dropping their prices so that the local people can go to, which is really good. Pekaha's doing it at the moment. So it's, we're actually in a very unique area in the Wairepa because we're not heavily tourist, but it's still nice to have those areas that you can go to. Yeah,
definitely. And I think we've got some really cool events as well. So like, the night market at Carrington Park, the balloons when they're on, and things just like lavender picking. I like to go there every year, and there's things like that where it's just an awesome place to bring along your kids.
Because you've got the Spring Carnival coming up shortly too.
Yeah, we've got Daffodil Festival coming up, and that's happening. Sad to see that the AMP show is not happening this year, but then that's one of the ones that we always go to and the kids absolutely love as well. So there's definitely plenty to do, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. So when you became Deputy Mayor after the last election, how did you feel about that? Was that something that you were looking at going for, or was it just something that with changes with people not standing that changed perspectives?
So Greg had asked me before we stood, and I said I'm so keen, and yeah, so it was something that kind of was in the picture that may happen, but I wasn't going to, I guess, 100% set my expectations on it in case it didn't. When it did, of course, I was really, really stoked because it means that, like, this is my job now. Instead of being alongside something else, it's something I can really focus on. Yeah.
So you also chair, part of being Deputy Mayor is you actually chair some of the committees. What committees are you chairing currently at the moment? So
I chair the Policy and Strategy Committee, which is a full council committee that goes through all the policies, and it sounds very dry, and in some ways it is, but it sets the tone of the whole organisation and how council operates. So I'm quite nerdy about it. I quite enjoy it. So yeah, and I was chairing the Walking and Cycling Advisory Group, but I've just handed that over to Rob. What else do I chair? I don't know. That might be it, actually. We've tried to share our chair roles this term, spread the load amongst people, and actually, yeah, I think it's really good. We've also portfolios this term, so each councillor has the area that they're kind of in charge of, and so my one's policy, is Chair of Policy and Strategy, but I'm also the Deputy for Sports and Recreation and Community Development. So under those ones, it's just about, keeping in touch with all the community groups, finding out what's happening in those spaces and feeding it back to council. So, yeah, it's been really good.
Something you're good because during COVID is when Rebecca and I joined up again with self-isolation support. It was a Facebook page that got together, and there was 6 of us in the end that were on there as coordinators, spending time making sure people had food, making sure that people had their medications and all that. And that's where Karen McAnulty actually contacted me and says, I think you and Rebecca need to join up together. And through that, the Women's Centre started the Check and Chat. And we applied to the Women's Ministry to continue that on during this time, because there's, talking to crisis pregnancy, there's women that need support at night as well through their time. Mental health is actually increased, so that's done that. So it was announced on Friday that we've actually got additional money to continue on that check-in chat. So it's going to be fantastic to continue that on. We've got that on until Christmas time. And it's just a great opportunity for people to actually be supporting somebody else that's actually struggling out there and is very isolated. So I remember we had one guy that was very isolated during that time, but just somebody calling him felt totally different in his world. So that's something exciting for the Women's Centre that's just come on from COVID.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that check-in chat was really, really successful actually, just because, you know, for some people living alone, or even just feeling the stress of things, having a call from someone else who's not necessarily a family member was, just really cool. So,
and you know what we found during that time is we were talking to them and making sure that they actually had food and that sort of thing. Is actually we found out some families were actually ordering their food for them and then getting it sent to them. So people that weren't into the internet stage was being helped by their families, but having somebody else to talk to. So there's one lady that was through the senior citizens and she just thought it was marvellous. All her family were in England and she sat down. They had a time each week. They sat down. They didn't do daily chats. They did weekly chats. And she sat down with a younger woman and the younger woman's just like, oh my God, Kim, I've just learnt so much about this lady, finding out about another generation. So it actually helped this lady that also was living alone to help somebody else. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to extending that service and it's going to be interesting to see, and I'm sure I'll be back in touch again, Rebecca, to find out. In a short time, Rebecca had Facebook, she had email. Rob very nicely shrunk our logo so that we could put it on the isolation logo as well. So it was just a group of people that worked really well together. And I will tell you, there was a number of video calls with Rebecca sitting in the car.
yeah. It was like the only place I could get quiet in the whole house. Yeah.
So we knew that Rebecca would always call us from a car. It just all gave us a bit of a laugh, and actually, out of it, we've met up for a coffee since and met each other. So it's actually been really fantastic, and it's something that we want to continue on with.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's great to see that something out of COVID, there's actually a lot of positives coming out. It's not all negative and doom and gloom. So, for people out there that are thinking, oh my God, where are we going to, what are we doing, just give me a call or email me at Wairarapa Women's Centre, because we will be out there in the next few weeks. I've got to do a lot of background work, and then we'll be hitting it out there and getting it out there, so it's fantastic. Right, where are we up to here? So, what is it? How inspiring is it to have a voice of a woman on the council? So you're not the only woman on the council?
No, we've got three women on council now. I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. No, last term we had 50-50. This term we've got 3 out of 9. So 33%.
That's great. So it's also good to have a woman's view, because men and women do think quite differently. It's known that the brain thinks differently. Tell me, what do you enjoy working with the rest of the councillors? What do you get out of working with the rest of the councillors? Yeah.
I just love the different perspectives that people bring to the table and the different life experiences. I think it's really key to have different opinions around the table, and we definitely have different opinions on things. I respect every member around the council table, and I think that they all bring something unique to the table, whether that's a rural perspective or owning a business or things like that. We all have something different to bring, and I think they all work really, really well. So I'm just over the moon with the team that we have actually. And I think we all work well together, and we're all, friends, I guess, outside of council as well. So, it's good.
I think that's actually really good when you can actually have a good discussion, good, healthy discussion, and then all get on together afterwards. That's really good, isn't it? So tell me, Rebecca, when I interviewed Lynn Patterson at Christmas time, I put out to the Wairarapa Community Networks about some questions, and Cara came back with some questions. So I'm going to fire these questions at you.
Okay.
Thanks, Cara, for these. What do you see as the biggest social issue facing Carterton?
Ooh. So I think housing's a big one. Like affordable housing and the lack of rental properties is huge. I think we're actually pretty lucky as a town that we do have a really good community and we're all pretty resilient, which is awesome. But I think housing is something that really does need to be addressed. What else? I think possibly just like things for families to do. That's being addressed through Kāpai Kāretin a little bit as well.
Tell us a bit more about Kāpai Kāretin, because that's actually something that really came out during COVID as well with our group.
Yeah, so they're a community-led, I don't even know what they call themselves actually, it's community-led development anyway, so they're a group funded by the Department of Internal Affairs to run like consultation and then carry out some projects in town. So last year they did an awesome consultation along with Creative Forest and Kāretin, and now they've just put out their community plan actually, all their feedback. And now they're getting on to the project stage, so picking some projects and then running with them. So it's really cool, and I think there's some real benefits for having them in town and it being separate to council, because as you know, we do have a lot of processes we need to go through as a council, and then just being able to have Kāpai Kāretin on the side doing their thing has been really, really cool. So
that's awesome, because community-led projects are really passionate and they do get through, which is fantastic. So what's the next question?
I was just going to say the other social issue is our CBD and the earthquake-prone buildings. So that is... We've got until July 2021, so a year from now, to get things sorted. And I think a big thing for a lot of our building owners is they don't see how they're going to get a return for their building if they do it up. Because there's a few other things that happen as well when you have a new building or a revamped building. Is your capital value goes up, so your rates actually go up, and your insurance goes up, as well as your costs of strengthening it. So Greg's just got together his mayor's task force for the CBD, and that's going along really well now, so we're starting to address some of those issues. But yeah, it's a big project.
It is a big project because earthquake is a huge thing and it's affected a lot of buildings throughout New Zealand. And having a few more shakes recently sort of reminds you that it's actually important to look after your community.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, did you also work during COVID? Did you work in the emergency team with the what do they call it?
Emergency Operations Centre?
That's it.
No, I didn't. So that was a staff. Yeah, there was a lot of council staff on there, but not elected members. They did an amazing job. Hat goes off to them. I don't know how some of them did it, because they had, kids at home as well, and then having to go in there in quite a fast-paced environment that was constantly changing, had a lot of pressures, so they did an awesome job.
I think we were very lucky in the Wairarapa that we've got some really well-trained people in the emergency situation. Like Jonathan Hooker up here just steps in straight away. It just goes to show that being prepared is actually important, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And I know in Kāretin we've had quite a few emergency hub preparation days where people come in and they practice and that sort of thing. So as a town, I feel like we've had a lot of practice to do resilience type activities. I don't think anyone's ever practiced a lockdown like that before, though. It just hasn't really been on the cards. So that was something really different. And because a lot of the issues were social or economic issues, it wasn't like, buildings falling down and, that sort of thing. It was quite a different emergency. So, yeah.
And also, too, with the towns going so dead. I had to come into town one part to deliver a food parcel, and there was nobody on the roads. And it just was like, wow. It just felt like ghost town.
One thing I did love, though, was just the amount of people going out for a walk every day, or going cycling. It was so cool, and something that I think I should probably do more often. But yeah, it was awesome to see so many people out and about. And we're actually quite lucky that we had such great weather as well during lockdown, because I think having lockdown now during winter would have been very dreary.
Yeah, it would have been. So all the other questions that Cara had, you sort of answered, but what opportunities do you see for the social and community sector and the council to work together for social wellbeing? And that's actually your ka pai.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, they've done a great job. There's a lot of little community groups around Carterton and the Wairarapa that if we just all pull together and make sure we're on the same page, we can actually achieve a lot. So I think one of the main things is that we're not duplicating any services, or that we're not trying to do the same thing as someone else, but that we're supporting each other to focus on our strengths.
So we're just about ready to wind up the program. It's gone so quick again today, and it's always good to talk to Rebecca. Rebecca, what do you see in the future for yourself? Do you see yourself staying in local government, central government?
I don't know. I literally just take things like a year at a time. Like I said, I have my big list of things I want to get done in Carterton, but it's not all up to me. I've got to work as part of a team. In the future, I'm not sure. I'd love to do more study. Love to go overseas for a bit. So who knows? We'll see.
There's a lot of things. No, with Rebecca, there's always going to be some fun stuff in there as well.
I can't help myself. Yeah, I can't help myself.
She's always a fun, bubbling young girl. Rebecca, tell me, as a family in Carterton, the benefits.
I just think it's like a safe town. You got everything within a 20-minute drive, and if you want to go out for a trip, you can go to Wellington. I just think it's an awesome place to raise your kids, especially in Carterton with, the free pools and the park and, relatively quiet streets and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a great lifestyle.
So the other thing is that you're also a big community person, so people are always getting to know you. What do you think that community see you as?
Oh, that's a tough question. They probably see me as someone who's always quite busy, probably with my fingers in a lot of pies. I don't know. I'd like to think that I'm approachable and always willing to have conversations with people, and I'm very big about that if I make a decision around the council table, I need to be able to tell people why I've made a decision. And hopefully people know me as someone who I'm willing to change my mind about stuff. So
I think that's important, being in local government, that you're open to changes.
You have
because
to be,
as you say, you're stuck with so much policies and strategies, and that the things that you thought you could do and the impatience of waiting for it to be done. It just really shows on how, as a person, you're changing to the challenge yourself.
Definitely. And I think you find out more information about stuff, or you hear people's opinion about stuff, and that should impact the way you view things. So, yeah. And I think that's the whole reason why we do consultation and get around the community. I mean, you're not going to be able to please everyone all the time, but you should be able to justify why you have made that decision. Yeah.
That's really good. Hey, look, you've actually really explained a lot about council today, and it's been really fantastic. I'm going to finish up with Rebecca and then tell you about what we've got on at the Women's Centre, because we're just about out of time. Rebecca, one last word. What would your last word be?
My last word is to please get involved in your local council, regardless of where you are living. There are always consultations going on. Your councillors should always be available if you want to have a coffee with them or just go for a walk or whatever. But it is so important that you are involved, because if you are not, you just don't know what you don't know, and often the loudest voices get heard. So that's something we're always mindful of. But yeah.
That's actually wonderful, because in any organisation, in any place, if you don't speak up, you don't get heard. So that's really, really good advice. And I think also too, being a young mum, you've shown in Carterton how being a young mum and working in so many areas, actually it can be done. And it can be done with a smile and a laugh.
Yes.
And a cup of coffee.
And sometimes your washing doesn't get done, but you know what? Who cares?
Got to put your priorities right. Thank you, Rebecca. It's been really fantastic talking to you. The Women's Centre is starting a sewing night because there's so many people that have projects that are sitting there, like myself. So we're going to start off next Tuesday, I think it's the 21st, and it's at Rose Cottage from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We're going to be doing it every fortnight through term 3. So it's going to be $50 for the term. You bring your projects or your mending or whatever you want to do, and Heather Bannister's going to be on hand to be able to help with anything. So during lockdown, I said to her that I didn't want lockdown to continue because all my craft projects were starting to run out. I just about crocheted all my wool up into blankets for Red Cross, and so she delivered this beautiful cane basket, and it had scissors, it had needles, it had tape, and in it actually had material cut up ready for a quilt for my son. So, Heather's was doing a fantastic job during lockdown of delivering bits and pieces. So it's really important that people like Heather actually get the acknowledgement. So the Women's Centre have set up that so we can do that. But remember, our events and programs are on our Facebook. Vonnie's putting up at the moment 5D artwork, so there's things from purses to bookmarks, some amazing stuff that looks absolutely brilliant. If you've never tried it before, check out our Facebook. From the Women's Centre, we've got an amazing month coming ahead of us, setting up our Check and Chat from the Women's Ministry. That was really fantastic. For me this month, I've actually had the first time on the lead decision committee with COGS, and I ended up chairing the meeting on Friday. Fantastic team, really fantastic team that want to do things for the community. Unfortunately, we are restricted by the amount of money the government does give us, but we're wishing everybody that actually has got grants all the best, and we look forward to hearing back from you. If you've got a really good project, your committee members would love to hear from you because we want to put it up on DIA page. Okay, from the Women's Centre, all the best, and we'll see you next month. Bye.